think leadership to me is the ability to inspire and influence people to be the best they can and to come together and improve the community or society.
Being a good leader is also being a follower, and there's a followership aspect to being a good leader. You need to be something of an inspiration. You don't always have to be right, but you do have to be reasonable. And that whole thing of not falling prey to ego-driven decisions and following your ego all the time.
To me, leadership is just the quality that someone possesses where they can communicate to a group of people or person and just effectively lead them or help them out.
Okay. Leadership means to me when people take charge into their actions and responsibilities.
I would say leadership to me means stepping out and being the first to make that change, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're the first one to do something, but doing what's right because it's right, even if you're the only one standing alone. Anyone can be a leader, and it's really having someone to believe in them and help inspire them to rise up into those roles. And so I feel like for me, that's one of the things that I am honored to do as a leader, is to see the leadership qualities and rise up other future leaders, even when they can't see it themselves.
To me, leadership means working with a group of people in order to achieve a common goal.
For me, I think it's the ability to lead people to accomplish a goal and to allow them to grow and develop their own skills. Not just follow orders and get the job done. There's more to it than that.
Leadership to me means like being a leader in the community, so taking role and volunteering and helping out your community.
I think it can best be described as an active thing. A leader looks at situations around them, discerns the things that are important, things that might need interaction. It's clear if you're watching a kid in the street and he's in danger. Leadership means you don't look for somebody else to solve the problem, you go and get the kid out of the street. But in a lot of situations, leadership is assessing what situation you're in, what needs to change, importantly, who needs to work to change it. Maybe it's you, maybe it's better if it's not you. And then work to improve the situation and help everybody grow just a little bit through each circumstance.
To me, leadership is helping people.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leaders Inspiring Leaders. That almost felt like I was doing an infomercial for a second. I'm Jason Easton. I'm the Deputy Director of Strategic Growth. I'll be one of your hosts tonight along with our CEO, Becky Scrindy, who'll join me shortly. So many friends and family that are here tonight. We're so thankful for the support, and we're honored right now to introduce to you Dr. Robert Gates. Won't be doing that again. Becky and I had known each other for less than a month, and we had fun with me filling in as an MC. So now that I've been on staff now since August, so it's a pleasure to have gotten to see what Dr. Gates has done to help Helping Hands when it comes to all of what we do. And so part of what we're going to talk about tonight is not just about his amazing insights into leadership, but why he helps us. So his biography was in the, and this is tremendous. So many things that are inspiring. I think my favorite back-to-back ones are the CIA, and then later, this is your intro, by the way. So the CIA, and then going to Texas A&M and letting everybody at the whole university email you. And you told us a story last year about that was one of my favorites, which I've repeated often. So with that, we're going to ask you some questions.
Well, my favorite email, rather than keep you in suspense, I got an email, I think from a student. You can't tell sometimes whether it's a student or an alumnus. But I'd clearly made a decision that he didn't like. And it simply said, "Burn in hell," with a couple of additional terms, more personal. And
more personal.
So I finally talked my secretary into letting me respond. And all I said was, "You forget where I used to work." I never heard from the guy again. He may still be waiting for the black helicopters.
Thank you. Good night. That's all we have. I hope you enjoyed that. This is for you. You get to go first. Okay, I'll go first. Dr. Gates, you know, there's a lot of buzzwords in leadership in the last 20 years, and one of my friends in the room, I think, personally finds strategic planning the closest thing to heaven. But when you hear all this conversation about visioning, all these meetings about the planning of the planning of the planning, do you ever get concerned that things aren't getting done, things are just getting planned?
I think that you have to do planning, and you have to have a strategy, but those things are worthless if you don't have an implementation plan. And the other thing that I always insisted on that makes planning and strategizing and so on more concrete is everything that I did where I'd have a committee or a task force or something, they all had very short deadlines. So when I became Director of Central Intelligence in 1991, it was 6 weeks before the Soviet Union collapsed. So my immediate agenda was, how do I shift this intelligence behemoth, because at that time, the person in the role that I had oversaw all of the intelligence agencies of the government, all 16 of them, in addition to CIA. How do we shift this behemoth from 45 years of singular focus on the Soviet Union to a very different and more complicated world? And at one point, I had 27 different task forces underway simultaneously. But the longest deadline any of them had was 2 months. And we totally reoriented the intelligence community in the space of about 6 months. So I've always believed on whether it's a committee or a task force or whatever you want to call it, a long deadline is an invitation to not accomplishing anything. And so I had very short deadlines, and I enforced them. The other thing that I think is important when you're planning and when you're putting together a strategy, I think that the worst thing you can do as the leader is expect or even want consensus. I think consensus is the death knell of any real innovative thinking. So what I would insist on is not consensus, but tell me what the majority view is, and tell me what the minority view is, and give me all the rationale for the minority view. And I'd do it a little bit like a Chinese menu. I'd take a lot of what the majority wanted to recommend, but I'd also pick and choose things from the minority point of view and put it all together in my decision making. But I think you absolutely do not want consensus because then you get the lowest common denominator and you don't get any innovative or creative thinking.
That's good.
And sometimes, and then there's the other piece of this that I think is really critical. You hear a lot, speaking of buzzwords and so on, you hear a lot about team building and consensus building and all of those things. And I think those are important, particularly team building and so on. But what I particularly tell young people is you need to understand that at some point, if you're in charge, you're going to have to act alone. At a certain point, you will have to make a decision nobody will agree with, but you have the responsibility and you have to decide. And the one thing most employees can't stand about a leader is somebody who won't make a decision. And so I'll give you one example. So I got reports when I was in Afghanistan. I was told that the medevac time in Afghanistan was 2 hours from the time a soldier or Marine was wounded until they were in a hospital. And it had been 1 hour in Iraq. And the troops were saying, well, why not 1 hour in Afghanistan? So I thought that was a pretty good question. So I went back to the Pentagon, had people look at it for a week or two, had a meeting, and virtually every senior military and civilian official in the department said it was unnecessary to use the resources to get it to 1 hour. That statistically, and they had all the PowerPoint slides and everything, that statistically it wouldn't make any difference. And they were literally all against it, that it really wouldn't matter. And I said at the end, all right, look, if I'm a soldier and I've just been blown up, I'd really like to have a helicopter. And I said, I think it's a matter, I don't have any statistics. I can't prove anything to you, but what I do know is we have a moral obligation to these kids, and it's also a matter of morale. So I directed that we deploy 3 additional field hospitals to Afghanistan and ultimately an entire combat aviation brigade of helicopters. And we got the time down to below 2 hours, to below an hour. And a few years later, just to wrap up the story with what I consider a happy ending, a team of Army trauma surgeons and statisticians did a study and published an article in the Journal of the American Medical Association that concluded that between 450 and 500 lives had been saved by going to 1 hour. And they wrote the article because they wanted the civilian application here in this country for traffic accidents and so on. That hour makes a big difference. But the point is, there are times as a leader you have to make a decision when everybody is opposed to it. Now, I'm a big believer in listening to people in a transparent and inclusive decision-making process. And believe me, on the medevac, I had a lot of meetings and I heard a lot of points of view and saw a lot of PowerPoint slides. But at the end, I made the decision I thought was right. And I think that's important for the leader of any organization to realize that it's important to have an inclusive and transparent decision-making process, but at the end, you have to do what you think is right because you've got the responsibility.
Thank you for that, Bob. Or Robert Gates, Dr. Gates.
Whatever.
Sorry. He's Bob in my phone. Being a prior military person of 11 years, I would say thank you for saving those 500 lives because it's important for their teams, their families. So thank you for that. So we've talked about vision in your book. After the last year, he signed a book and I opened it up and he talks about leaders need to have vision. And then he went to say that this woman in the book, who is this leader he's talking about, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me. But I hadn't met him yet. So it was funny how you wrote this book about me before you even met me. How amazing is that?
Good intelligence.
Yes.
Black helicopter?
Yeah. But vision is something I feel like that's one of my strengths. But I also am told a lot that leaders, there's not a lot of really good leaders that have that vision. So when you want to be a leader, when you want to grow into that next level, how do you teach vision? It feels like sometimes it comes naturally, but if you have someone if someone in the audience says, I want to be a leader, and they don't understand how you do vision, what are some things that you suggest for them?
Well, I think that, not every leader is going to have vision. And so I think that the leader has to be very self-aware. And, every organization that I've ever led, I've been fortunate enough, when I took the job, to have a pretty good idea of what needed to be done, of how we needed to move forward and change things. But if you don't have that, you can still be a great leader without having vision, as long as you recognize that deficiency and have somebody working with you who has vision, and you listen to them. So, people talk about teams and so on, and I was talking about team building earlier. Leaders need to look for people to surround themselves with who complement their skills, and to have enough self-awareness to know where your own shortcomings are, and then hire to bring somebody onto your team who can complement you and who brings those skills to you. And I'll give you two presidential examples. I think Ronald Reagan was a great visionary. I don't think George H.W. Bush was. But as I said earlier, there's never in human history been a great empire collapse without a major war, except when the Soviet Union collapsed. And that was all because of George H.W. Bush and the way he managed it and the collapse of the Soviet Union. But he had people around him who had great ideas, and they gave him new ideas about how to restructure NATO in terms of the unification of Germany. I'll tell you a fun story about Bush and Germany, where he did have vision. So I'm with him on a domestic trip. I'm Deputy National Security Advisor, and we're in Hella, Montana, and he's having a press conference in the Capitol building in Montana. And a reporter said, well, what do you think about the reunification of Germany? And he said, well, I think it's 40 years. I think the Germans have changed, and I think that they, if they want to be one country, I'm all for it. I'm in favor of it. So I called, as soon as that was over, I called the National Security Advisor, Brent Scowcroft, and I said, Brent, do we have a policy on German reunification? He said, nope, the bureaucracy's all wrapped around the axle. We haven't figured out what we want to do yet. And I said, well, you got one now. And he said, what is it? And I said, we're all for it. So I think it's important to have vision in the leadership of an organization. It's fortunate when the leader himself or herself is a visionary and can see around corners, in effect. But if you don't have that, then it's important for the leader to make sure there's somebody on the team or a group of people on the team who bring that skill.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have time for two quick questions, so we're going to kind of play a little bit of a lightning round. So Becky gets to pick a question that you can ask, that she can ask on a short question with a short answer. There we go.
You go first.
I am going to go first. I just want to give you a heads up.
Okay. We practice this.
Women in leadership. The second half of tonight's event is to celebrate women in leadership, and I know that in your time in leadership, you've had to have had some amazing experiences with women in leadership, but you've also been a part of helping to change the roles that women could take in leadership during your time in government. If you can sum it up in 2 or 3 sentences, what was that like to be on the forefront of that?
Obvious.
You can go longer.
It was obvious.
That's a good question.
And
you should say that again because Becky was talking.
I mean, women in leadership seem to me obvious. I had most of my career, secretaries of state and secretaries of defense hated each other. I often weren't even on speaking terms. But I had known Condi Rice for a long time. We'd worked together on Bush 41's, first President Bush's national security team. And when I became Secretary of Defense, she was Secretary of State. And then when I stayed on under Obama, I was working with Hillary Clinton. My number 3 in the Department of Defense was a woman, the Undersecretary for Policy. I thought she should have been the first woman Secretary of Defense, Michelle Flournoy. So, I mean, first of all, I have a very strong wife and I have a very strong daughter, so I never had any choice about the matter. I saw firsthand what women can do. So, but I think one of the decisions I made the decision that women would be allowed to serve on submarines. And that really was the first big breakthrough. I pinned the 4th star on the first woman 4-star Army general.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, it didn't seem to me, like I started out, it didn't seem to me to be that big a deal. It was just obvious.
It's a big deal to women, so thank you.
You're right on.
Yeah. I think the last thing we should touch on is, and we talked about it at the dinner, is why Helping Hands? You know, and why Skagit County's Boys and Girls Club and the school district and the fire department, your philanthropy is genuine and touching. And why do you and Becky really support this community the way you do?
Well, I think that first of all, as I said earlier, I think that I like the fact when we donate locally, 100 cents on the dollar goes to what we want it to go for and not for overhead, which is the case with so many of the big national charities and so on. And so other than a couple, 3 universities, everything we do is local. And I think in part because we think that we can make a difference locally. And in places where it doesn't take a huge amount of money to make a difference. And as I've said before, I mean, the lion's share of our support for the food banks in the valley goes to Helping Hands, but we also help Neighbors in Need in Mount Vernon, and we help the Clear Lake Food Bank. We started in 1994, the first year we moved out here, with Big Lake Elementary School, and we have grants twice a year now for the whole Cedar Woolley School District. And we have only one requirement. All the requests have to come from teachers. We've read too much about teachers having to take money out of their own pockets to buy supplies and buy things like that for the classroom or books or whatever. And so all of what we do is at the request, specific proposals from teachers. And we focus mainly, again, because it's where we think we can actually make a difference, we tend to focus almost all of that on the elementary schools in the Cedar Woolley School District. So it's because of, I think we are part of this community. We moved here 28 years ago. And I didn't expect to be gone for a dozen years, but and we feel like that the community needs to take care of itself, and the people in the community who are able need to help take care of those who are less fortunate in the community or people who are going through a hard time. So it's really thinking locally and doing things locally that I think matters the most. And it's you know, it doesn't matter how much you can give, because a lot of small donors end up providing a significant amount of money.
That's true.
And it's the collective action on the part of the community. And it's also a matter of not waiting for the government to come do something, because sometimes the government doesn't show up. Or when they show up, they're more of a problem than they are a solution.
Very true.
So, anyway.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, could you join Becky and I in thanking Dr. Gates?
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
Enjoyed it. Thank you. Becky.
Thank you.
Take care.
Well, you can be seated. I'm afraid to pick up my own water bottle earlier. What a special treat. And Dr. Gates is really generous with his time. And I think some of us, I'm going to do like a post as he's leaving kind of comments, but I don't really know if everybody really understands what you just experienced. And so I'm just going to kind of rattle some stuff off for you. So he told us earlier tonight that the two presidents with the worst sense of humors were Nixon.
One picture.
Okay, I mean, I can see that. And Carter, he told us that. Which would tell you then that he worked for both of them, right? Exactly. His story about Texas A&M, today, right now, you can go out to a website and see that he has 3 partners in a firm, and they're still doing consulting. And one of those partners is Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, Stephen Hadley, former Secretary or head of the National Security Council.
And Greg,
so
I get to come for your
my last
tour.
Dr. Gates story
Can I
is
just
a
hold
couple
one
weeks
to water?
or a couple months ago. I told Mrs. Easton, I said, "Look, Dr. Gates is going to be on 60 Minutes. I got to watch that. It's one of my favorite shows ever." Thanks, Dad. And Anderson Cooper was sitting at Big Lake.
Perfect.
In a house on Big Lake,
Thank you, Tanner.
interviewing Dr. Gates in his living room. Now, I knew he was going to be on the show. I just didn't realize it was going to be from the library, which I think it was the library. And John Janicki was here earlier. He helped design the library at Dr. Gates'
It's like
house.
I was ready to say hi to her.
When Dr. Gates came and was
Bye.
writing a book.
Thank
So
you.
I asked Dr. Gates' chief of staff, Tanner, who's become a friend of ours as an organization, and he's great. And Tanner said, "Well, we only had half a day." So he told Anderson if he wanted the interview, he's got to fly out here. And so they did. So if you're still looking for expertise about things that are happening around you right now, I would Google and YouTube Dr. Gates' interviews because they're amazing. And yes, I agree. I sound a little bit like a fanboy. So we are excited to have taken on a huge growth spurt. And in that growth spurt, we have gotten to, over the last year, add 3 or 4 new positions because of the amount of folks who we're serving has increased so much. So I'm excited to introduce a friend of mine from a long time to come give us an update about giving and how it works. And their microphone is coming to us. Karin Flint is our engagement manager and a friend of a number of you. Thank you, Nate. Karin put her hair up for a vote amongst the employees of the company about how to get it done, and my vote won. Because everybody in America wants to win. This is what I voted for, right there.
There were just so many options, I couldn't decide. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight. I recently actually joined Helping Hands only about 4 months ago. And as I started with this organization, I quickly realized what an impact that they were making in the community. And I was so thrilled and delighted to be on this team and to be a part of the change and the impact we're making on our community. With that said, I am grateful for all of you because you are doing the same. Being here, supporting us, you are impacting your community on a daily basis and enabling us to do what we do. So thank you. So with that, I do want to thank all of our sponsors for this evening. You guys helped make this possible. So if we give a round of applause for our sponsors. I wasn't going to list all of them off because that's a lot. So every single one of these people helped contribute. They helped put this event together in a way that we just, as we talked about vision, were able to pull off. So thank you.
Do you have an update for us about where we're at? Karen. Okay. And for those of you who, I don't need this one too, do I? No, yeah.
Come on up, though.
Come on up, Karen. So the executive director of the museum, Greg Anders, happened to be a friend of his for a long time, and he still counts me as a friend. He's the guy who flew in the P-51 earlier. But the real person in charge of making this party awesome tonight is Karen. Karen Hicks has done an amazing job. I just want to say, I feel like I've made my first British friend in a long time, so that's cool. But here's Karen to talk to you a little bit about the museum.
Welcome to the Heritage Flight Museum. Astronaut Bill Anders and his wife Valerie founded the museum in 1996. We started small and gradually increased in size to what you see today. The museum moved to Skagit County in 2014, where we have been welcomed by the Port of Skagit. Greg Anders, Executive Director, manages the day-to-day running of the museum. The museum truly has a unique story to tell our visitors. Our main goals are to honor veterans and keeping history alive in Skagit County. We recently added over 11,000 square foot expansion to the museum, which added space for a new maintenance hangar and 2 new exhibits, the 68 Experience and the Earthrise Gallery. This exhibit showcases a moon rock from NASA's Ambassador Exploration Program. As time moves forward, we are extremely hopeful to introduce a couple of programs, one of them being a STEM program for the younger generations in the hopes that they will take interest and look towards their career goals. The museum is also looking to be the premier events center in Skagit County. The setting truly is unique. Who can say that they had dinner with World War II artifacts and warbirds? We love telling our story, and we are hopeful that you will retell it. Thank you all so much for being here, and we do hope that Helping Hands, who chose the museum as the venue for this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So when I first came to to see the event space, I'm sitting on the steps with Erica outside, and I hear this woman behind me, and I turn around, I'm like, I know you. She's like, I know you. Turns out Karen and I hadn't seen each other in a while. We worked together over 10 years ago. And so we got to reconnect over this. So Karen, thank you so much for your hospitality. Thank you to the Heritage Flight Museum. And we're just ecstatic.
And to the board and Bruce.
Yes, and to the board and Bruce. Thank you. All right, so why we're all here tonight? To support Helping Hands programs and the leadership that we are modeling in the community. So I want to talk about the ways you can give tonight. We made it real easy. How many of y'all have smartphones? More of you have smartphones. Come on. So on the back,
have flip phones? How many have flip phones?
On the back of your badge, you're going to find 2 QR codes. And we have 2 ways that you can give tonight. We have a match, which is currently at $64,400. So we have had companies sponsor that amount of money. So tonight, when you donate to the match, they will match it up to $64,600. And that will grow and continue to grow. So if that is where you want to do, the best part about the match is that you can select where you want that program to be. So if you're into feeding kids, you can donate to Chow and double your match. If you want to support our Job Skills program, you can select Job Skills and support our match and double your donation that way. The other way that you can give tonight is through our Fund a Need. And that is, our Fund a Need tonight is for non-food life essential items. So in your program, you'll see a whole page about our non-food life essentials, but that is really, it is tampons, it is diapers, it is soap, it is deodorant, it is laundry detergent. And especially with the rising costs of groceries, things have become a lot more expensive and people are having to make difficult choices. Having to give up some of those things. Do I want to feed my kids or do I want to have clean clothes to be able to do laundry? So please, as tonight, if one of those speaks to your heart, we ask you to give, support Helping Hands so that we can continue our mission. And as he was leaving, can I say this now? Bob Gates and Becky Gates have taken the time to give us $5,000 to get our Fund a Need started. So thank you, a huge thank you for kicking that off.
going back over there. Can I get video? So, Karin, oh, I'm sorry. I gave you the wrong cue. You can blame me for that one. Thank you, Karin. You're such a great addition to our team, we have an amazing team. I'm really thankful. I got promoted from temporary MC to staff member. It's like the best thing that happened to me. So Becky and I want to share some things with you about what we've been doing, because it's been an amazing couple of years, and what we're dreaming about. So the CEO of Helping Hands, Becky Scrindy.
Thanks for coming tonight, and I want to thank everybody who's here, like
Mike Carroll?
Mike Carroll.
Yeah.
From Skagit Hyundai, called Hyundai of America, and they sponsored us for the match for $20,000. So thank you. The Janickies put in $10,000 towards the match. So that list of people that got us to the $64,600 is an amazing group of people who really appreciate what we do in the mission here at Helping Hands. So if I'm talking about the future of Helping Hands, I have to go back and think about 37 years ago when 20 people put together a pantry at the Catholic Church in Cedar Woolley. We still have one of those volunteers. He comes every Tuesday, and he cuts eggs, and he's beautiful and wonderful, and he is my adopted grandpa. And so I want to say thank you to everybody who's been part of that 37 years, and those who are going to be part of our next 37 years. Some of the things that we're committed to. Helping Hands has a new motto of being committed to you, the community, our donors, our volunteers, and especially our participants. We say participants because they actually have to participate in the act of asking, us giving, and them taking the tools that we can provide, that the community provides, to better themselves and thrive in this community. So we're committed to being a collector of solutions, to use the stories to advocate for change, and to celebrate with our participants as they follow their dreams of going to school, buying houses, and getting better jobs. We're committed to our partners. We have a few of them here tonight that we're going to celebrate because we're committed to changing the course and being a catalyst of ideas and of innovation with them to solve poverty, hunger, and other barriers together. We're committed to challenging the process and changing language that labels participants and sharing positive language that empowers people, gives them strength, and encourages them, those seeking those solutions. I've been to a lot of Boeing golf tournaments where someone whispers in my ear, "I've used your food bank." That positive talk about growing and thriving and now working at Boeing and having their own families, that's our mission. Committed to making Skagit County resilient, exploring gaps in the system, such as access for all, and we're committed to always say yes. My staff doesn't like that one, but I'm working on them. We're committed to the volunteers, the donors, to mobilize you, to understand the need in your community, to give you the tools to support and advocate for the people in your neighborhoods. And we want to encourage those that seek solutions. We're committed to keeping staff healthy, strong, and committed and compassionate to be the best we can be for this community. I think that's all I have. We are committed to you, we're committed to the partners, and I'm definitely, personally committed to my staff to make them the best that they can be. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jason.
Thanks, Bob. So I have one of the longest and strangest titles in the organization. It's like 4 or 5 words long, but my focus is strategic growth, and let's talk about how we grew strategically this last year, and then we're gonna take you on a 3 to 5 year journey that's gonna blow your minds, I hope. If it doesn't, don't tell us. So 1 year ago, we were a food bank that was a food bank and solution center based in Cedar Woolley with a 10,000 square foot building, and we distributed food out of 2 church parking lots, one in Marble Mount, one in Anacortes, and then we gave food away out of course, our main building. By the 1st of September, we will be in 6 locations. We will have 3 permanent locations that are a part of the organization. We have opened an advanced office, an office for the advanced planning in Anacortes. We have, by being asked, Hamilton asked us to become the food bank that we manage and help their food bank as a transition. And so we're also adding 1 in Central County and 1 in the West County locations to distribute food. But we just don't distribute food. We distribute the other 3 pillars of who we are, which you'll hear more about tonight. But we're all about taking people from that survival place to thriving. And so for us, that's food, that's non-food life essentials, which we'll explain more about later. It's also about solutions. One of our exciting areas of helping to connect people where there's a break and them getting the help they need or that last step towards the future. And then the 4th one is job training. But here's the thing. We have been working as an advocate. We have an advocacy, basically, department, basically Becky and I, and we have reached out to multiple nonprofits, some of them who are here, and multiple governments, and we are happy to announce that we have been asked to be a part of the future planning for the emergency management response for this county. Helping, see? Come on. The county has asked us to participate in helping and having those conversations, and that has come from a chance. Becky took a chance of putting somebody on the staff who had 18 years of messing around in politics a little bit in me, and got a vision together of let's go ask until they tell us no, let's go have fun and prove to them that there's some things that need to be fixed. And you know what? One of those things that needs to be fixed is working together to build great connections. The Volunteers of America are here tonight. They're an amazing organization. We have folks from Community Action here tonight. We have folks from WorkSource here tonight. These are all people that we don't just say we're partners with. We referred someone to Community Action in the last 48 hours probably for help. We've worked with Alex and we've put over $1 million worth of training money back into Skagit County through the grants that the state has given us to train people. We are more than a food bank. It's not a put down for other food banks. The next 3 to 5 years, watch out, because we're gonna have more distribution centers, we're gonna reach more people, but more than anything, that gal over here, Miranda, who's gonna be up in a minute, like a rock star, we're gonna find more ways to solve poverty, but we're gonna stay in the 4 things we do great. Your dollars are not gonna be spent on an organization that chases grants or chases the next shiny object. Your dollars are going to be spent. The dollars you give tonight and those dollars that have been already donated, stay focused on our growth. Here's the strangest thing. Most people in this room couldn't get a call from a congresswoman or a congressman if they tried. They keep calling us. I did politics on and off for 18 years. I've been on multiple conference calls because Susan Del Bene's office asked to talk to us about how to fix the baby formula issues. We're participating and helping to make a difference in Washington, D.C. in our very testimony in the next couple of weeks because of what we're contributing. This is your helping hands. This is more than a food bank. And we're proud of that, and we're proud of how far we're going to grow and how far we're going to go. Thank you. Ciao. Please take a look at this video.
Sorry, it's kind of...
We could close the door.
2014 as Food for Kids. When a counselor from Evergreen Elementary in Cedar Road contacted Helping Hands, informing us that they had children arriving at school on Monday who hadn't had access to food over the weekend. Eager to support kids in our community, Helping Hands was serving the 10 children identified by the counselor within the first year. Year after year, the need for this program continually grows in the community. To help support the needs of families who might be struggling, Helping Hands partners with local schools and local school districts and offers one-on-one appointments with families who have a self-identified need for food on the weekend. Partnerships like this help lessen the shame of a guardian needing food for their kids. Knowing the importance of this program in our community, Helping Hands is committed to having chow available to any family or child in need. Additionally, we commit to advocating for the children who need this food to stay strong and feel successful in school by selecting quality foods for the bags, keeping volunteers engaged in the program.
and sharing opportunities for all in Skagit County to support this very needed program. Starting with 10 children a week to the peak of COVID, feeding 2,500 children a week. Helping Hands has had incredible partners, ensuring the program could continue. We want to thank Skagit Publishing, United Way, 1095 Coalition, WSU Extension, MKJ Enterprises, volunteer drivers, and local refineries for being an integral part of the continuation and growth of CHOW.
Hello, I'm Erica. I'm the volunteer manager here at Helping Hands. I just want to take a few minutes and tell you a little bit more about the Heart of CHOW. One of my favorite parts of our tour is taking somebody to the CHOW line and showing them what goes in the bags and how that impacts our children. We have had families come in with their kids, and I put them at the CHOW volunteer section so that they can experience that, they can know that they're helping their peers, and that they just see the impact that they're making on their community and in their demographic. We have had multiple children come, and a field trip of 50 fifth graders made over 2,000 bags, which fed their peers for a week. So we love CHOW. We're passionate about it, and if you have any questions, let us know, but we just hope that it moves you as well. And this is Tara.
Who in this room has ever experienced food insecurity as a child? Well, I did, and it had a big impact on my life. I remember vividly as a child opening the refrigerator and the cabinets, hoping there would be food in the cabinets and the refrigerator, and there wasn't anything. But fortunately, my safe haven was school, and my amazing teachers and the cafeteria ladies, they took really good care of me. When I was at school, they made sure I had breakfast, I had lunch, and I had a little something to take home. So that was CHOW when I was growing up, before CHOW existed. My name is Tara Havard, and I'm with the Marathon Anacortes Refinery, one of the refineries in there mentioned. We are a huge supporter of the CHOW program, primarily because I'm very passionate about it, and I get my way. And there's a few people over there that know that. And I'm also a proud board member of the Helping Hands Food Bank. Several years ago, when I first heard about the CHOW program, I believe Becky was speaking to us at Leadership Skagit. I got a little teary-eyed, and followed by goosebumps, and those memories that I had as a child, they run deep. And I knew then that this is how I can make a difference with the kids of Skagit County and make sure they have food for them to thrive. Because one hungry child is one too many. Thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate all your support, and thanks to Becky and Jason and all the staff at Helping Hands. You guys are amazing. So, thank you.
Helping Hands started the Solutions program out of a simple question asked to new participants. Why are you here today? We feel like this question allows participants to understand the heart of Helping Hands and help those new participants leave with what they needed. And as an organization, we found out there were 1,000 different whys. Most of them didn't even include food. Who would have thought? But we had a new bed from Costco in the warehouse for the mother and her child. And every day there is a new why. So our staff said, enough is enough. We need to do more than food. We can't just hand them a brochure and say, I hope it works out for you. After hearing this from our staff, the Helping Hands Board of Directors committed to having the Solutions program up and running when we opened our new distribution warehouse. With support from the community and board, we can now support families with food and non-food needs to navigate their why. Helping Hands has excellent partners: Community Action, Friendship House, Anacortes Family Center, Skagit Transit, Goodwill, Walnut Tree, several retail stores, and numerous other organizations that help those in need. Together, we are committed to supporting the solutions team through funding, staffing, and community mobilization.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for enjoying this beautiful day with us. I'm Sarah Fish, and I'm the chairperson for the Board of Helping Hands. Thank you. This next staff member is unbelievably committed to her community. Miranda was actually hired to be Becky's assistant, but the funny story is, never assisted Becky. Instead, she went to work for the participants at our Helping Hands Food Bank and focused on humanity. That is what our solutions program is all about: finding resources for all. Miranda and the Solutions program gives me the courage to approach people outside of Safeway, for instance, and ask them what their needs are beyond just food to help them thrive and not just survive. I've actually done that. Most of my calls to Miranda are to connect those who need support to her and her programs. Thank you for always being there and always getting your phone when I call you, because there is somebody on the other line who needs to be touched by you. So thank you. Please help me introduce Miranda Wilson, our director of the Solutions programs.
Well, I am now Miranda Wilson of the Solutions Department, you guys. And I'm the Solutions Manager too, sorry. I forget who I am sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I bleed Helping Hands, but I'm not sure yet. Okay. So, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Solutions Department because it is a fairly new addition to Helping Hands. As Becky mentioned, Helping Hands as a whole has been around for 37 years. So Solutions is new, however, it is more needed than ever before. So it's perfect timing in that way. Generation after generation of people come to Helping Hands. We see grandchildren, parents, grandparents over and over coming in. There's nothing wrong with using a food bank. However, they're stuck in this revolving circle of just using Band-Aids when they need so much more. In the Solutions Department, we provide wraparound services, connect them to other nonprofits, help them apply for benefits that can help them get jobs. We do training, help them with financial management. I mean, there's not a whole lot that we won't do. We serve the whole person from start to finish. I am so passionate about this because I am too a generational person that used the food bank. And there's nothing like waking up in the morning and thinking 2 more days until Wednesday and then there can be food back in the house. I know the feeling of the participants, although every story is different and everybody's feelings are different, the general outcome is the same. They want help. They don't want to keep coming to the food banks, and that's what we strive for. I'm going to give you a couple stories now of some amazing participants that were brave enough to come to us for help. Nobody wants to walk in and say they can't do it by themselves, so I am always blown away with them when they do. There was a gentleman who came in who proudly served our country. He was lost, turned away many times, unhoused, and had given up. The first contact I had with him, he was sitting in a parking lot ready to end his life. All he wanted was one night, sorry, I'm not gonna get emotional, in a hotel so that he could gather his thoughts and we can make a plan going forward. I'm happy to say that gentleman is now able to get the funding that he so much deserves because we were able to help him file for his forms, connect him to another nonprofit that offers that assistance, as well as give him a couple nights in a hotel with Helping Hands funds because of generous people like you. Sorry. I swear to God, I love them all. There's so many people in my heart. And then one more story I'll give you really quick is a lady came to us, lost, alone, afraid to go home, had been in a domestic violence relationship for several years and felt stuck. She was abandoned and felt like nobody would believe her. She came to us with her 2 little children. She left the house in such a hurry. She had been living in her car with her 5-year-old daughter and her 9-year-old son without even a car seat. So the first step was to make sure the kids were safe. We were able to connect her to another wonderful nonprofit that deals with domestic violence and get her clothing, food, and connect her to the police department so that she could get her property from the home. The last meeting I had with her last month, I'm very happy to say that the, I think it's the Luna Union, correct me if I'm wrong, a union has hired her on as a roads department manager, and she will be getting off of the streets, and we are helping her get her work boots and other safety gear so that she can go forward with bringing her children from surviving to thriving. I swear I wasn't going to cry this time. Thank you, everybody. I know I'm out of time, but I do want to encourage you, if you can, please do consider giving to this program so we can continue helping people in this way. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
For over 3 decades, Helping Hands has witnessed a growing need for non-food items in the community. So, Helping Hands started a partnership with Essential First and participated in their pilot program to address the gap. The idea behind the Essentials First program was to show the community's need for basic non-food life essentials. Items like feminine hygiene products, laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, diapers, body wash, etc. With this partnership in place and support from community members, our non-food life essentials distribution has become one of the most popular distributions for our participants. One single mom thanked us saying, as an organization, Helping Hands is also committed to sharing the stories of our community's needs with our elected officials and anyone else who will listen. We do this with the intent to raise awareness and foster change in our current laws, because no human should have to go without soap or worry that their basic needs aren't being met.
You know, for hundreds of years, probably 100, 150 years, our country has gotten pretty good at building a system where federal and state dollars buy food, they put it in warehouses, those warehouses trade it to other warehouses, send it to other warehouses that are smaller, and then, or distribution centers, and then that gets out to food banks and food is given to people. But what we've never been very good at in a larger scale is the things you need to live your life besides food when you're trying to eat. I've heard a story about a young man who didn't want to go to a job interview because he knew he smelled, but a bar of soap, like the ones we give away, he went to that interview. I've walked down the line the second or third time that we did a non-food only, just the feminine hygiene and the soaps and these items, diapers, things like that. I walked down the line because I felt bad that people were waiting so long to be able to come through. We hadn't had a long time to have advertised it. I came up to a car, and I was just going one car by each car, and I didn't know what to do, so I said, thank you. And they were stunned that I would thank them for being in a line, and clearly they knew I was on our staff. And I said, you don't understand that 10,000 square foot warehouse with 500,000 pounds of food in it doesn't fill up and empty if you don't come, and we don't get to help those that don't come. And we're so thankful for that. And she said, this mother of three and her mom were in a van, and she began to cry. And I thought, that is usually not a good thing for me when I make women cry. So I'm like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, thank you. We wouldn't eat as much. We wouldn't have as much food for the kids right now if I was paying for this laundry soap. And I thought, and remember, this was 6 inflation spikes ago. you know, this was 9 months ago. And how much more is that $11 in that, you know, in that soap now? 16, 18, 20. The passion that we're hearing about people's needs for this. We went live, when did our Fund to Need go live? Like a week ago? Yeah. Fund to Live went live on Facebook that we were raising funds for this. The very thing we have for $75 a month, you can support 90 families when it comes to non-food essentials. I know that number seems crazy, but because of our buying power and our partners. But when we posted this, we had an interesting reaction. There's been a lot of outpourings. We heard from Dr. Gates. There's others who have been giving. But it has been the highest web traffic that we've seen from people asking for help. They're seeing that we're doing it because we're running an ad about it, right? We're posting about it. They're seeing it's available. It's so unavailable that we're hearing from people further and further away. Last night we heard from someone, or the day before, in Arlington and Stanwood and further away. We don't recognize county lines to stop us from helping people. We'll refer them, we'll try to get things to them or have them come see us. But we need your help when it comes to non-food life essentials. These things are really important. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that Congresswoman Del Bene reached out to us about what's going on with formula. Food banks and Helping Hands in particular, because we become a regional organization, have an opportunity to pioneer things. We were asked to pilot a program like this. I've been negotiating with Miranda, with a member of Congress, over the idea that food stamps shouldn't just be for food. It should also be for the things you need to live. And immediately she said, that's a great idea, but it won't work in this department. And I'm like, well, then let's try that department. So we look forward to the day that Miranda is testifying in front of Congress on these issues, on solutions, next to Becky, and I'm just somewhere in the back trying to not get kicked out. But that is the vision of why we do this, because we really believe that your life experienced food insecurity this last year. You did. Every one of you in this room went to some grocery store at some point and stood in front of some aisle that didn't have your cat's favorite food or your favorite breakfast cereal. That's changing your minds about how to give back to people in your community. Let it happen. Let it happen. Free up some shekels. Be a part of this. I think you're next and you're next. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell you he was a pastor in his former
Job
life.
skills training has always been something we've done as an organization with our volunteers. But before 2021, it was never a formal program. Helping Hands has always supported volunteers looking to grow their skills, build resumes, and better their future. We often write letters of recommendation and hold a resume building class to help them start with their best foot forward. Helping Hands works with many organizations, such as WorkSource and Skagit Valley College, to train youth, the handy-capable, and people with other barriers to employment to provide a safe place for individuals to learn computer skills, customer service skills, forklift operations, box truck driving, and basic warehouse operations. In 2021, Helping Hands received a grant which helped bring close to $750,000 worth of salaries to Skagit County. These grants and opportunities get our staff excited and make it possible to grow our job skill training program. At Helping Hands, we want to be a catalyst for ideas and find new ways to support people struggling with underemployment to find and prepare for better opportunities. Having seen the incredible impact these grants make, Helping Hands is committed to assisting Skagit County in finding grants, funding, and providing training to those participants to help strengthen the workforce, because as staff at Helping Hands knows that giving the tools to participants and the community members to thrive in better employment equals solving poverty.
So the two people that we're going to be up here today are home with the thing that everybody's kind of scared of right now. So I know, I'm not saying it. So we're up here today. This is something 7 years ago when I walked in the door, thought, how are we not training people in forklift operations and customer service? And it's always been on our heart. And when we moved into the new building, the board was very great at saying, yes, let's train these people. And we started with WorkSource with a program that teaches young kids who have never worked, that may have never had the opportunity with their families to have a job. And so they're 16 to 24 years old. And we had 13 of those folks come through our program. And then COVID came into the picture. We were blessed to be able to ask and keep for 40 National Guard folks that were there for over 18 months. And we were seeing that they were going to be, 11 of them were going to be unemployed by the time they were done serving their community. And Alex from the Workforce, yeah, what he said, I'm a little hot and sweaty right now, said, hey, they're interested in making sure those National Guard stay working. And there was another program that was for those who are unemployed because of COVID. And some of the things that why I always say yes is, and I throw at my staff, is we picked people in those first 10 grants that were unemployable. So they were the women that had been out of the workforce for one, had never been in the workforce, didn't really speak English, and now she's teaching our volunteers English, and she's actually, her husband is going to be a truck driver, so they're going together to have that as their business now. And she became one of our crew leads, and to me, I would hate to say that she's probably in her 50s, but if you've never worked and you're 50 and you don't speak English, who's going to hire you? And I grabbed her up quickly because I knew if we could help her, she was going to help us. We were always, Sue, my old president of the board, she was always telling me, where are the translators? We need more people. And I thought, let's give her a chance and bring her on. And we have 3 handy-capable gentlemen that were fired because in COVID there was that health kind of issue with their special needs. And one of them we were going to hire, but he got a job that's better than what we could pay in Eastern Washington, so we're so happy for him. And the other 2 will be staying on with our next grant coming up. So to me, this is the heart of solving poverty, is did you hear the word underemployed? It's the people that have to come with their work uniforms on to the food bank. Those are the people that have no benefits, have no help, and they're just trying to they're doing everything right, and those are the ones that we're trying to touch and help them get to that next level. So Lisa is not here today. She's watching her babies, but she's one of our interns, and don't tell her, but we're gonna hire her full-time staff next year. But don't tell her.
I already told her.
So she's gonna read what she wrote.
I don't know. It's on, thank you. Okay. Words from Lisa, the amazing Lisa, that's also my navigator that I'm excited about. Anyways, good evening. This job training program has impacted my life tremendously, and I am honored to have the opportunity to share a couple reasons with you all. I have always had an interest in human psychology and social services. Back in 2013, I began working as a caregiver, and through the years worked with a vast amount of people from different backgrounds and needs. When starting at Helping Hands spring of 2021, I felt a bit out of my element, since the dynamic of how we helped was completely different. I felt the shift of dynamic. It was important that I did what I was told and not really speak unless spoken to. After no time, I learned that my supervisor wanted to hear my input, valued my opinions, and completely encouraged my growth, not only as a job training member, but also as the individual I am. With this amount of support, I found my voice. When I first started Helping Hands, I started produce and bulk food, washed non-food items received through grocery rescue that were not in proper condition to hand out, such as spilled soap, broken glass, etc., and eventually got asked to join Miranda in working with participants on a more personal level in the programs department, now called Solutions. I was more than grateful to accept. From that moment on, I know I would have the support to truly express my compassion in finding solutions to the various problems participants need a helping hand to conquer. Through this job training program, I have gained experience and confidence to know the career path I will pursue. Thank you, everyone.
Because you're on the panel. Obvious. Who remembers the last time we heard that word? It was Dr. Gates, right? He was talking about women in leadership. I thought I asked a question, and I told him it would be a quick answer, and he gave a really quick answer, right? Obvious. There are many amazing women in my life, and getting the chance to work for Becky has been a very, very special experience, and I enjoy it tremendously. But there's another woman in this room today, besides my wife, Crystal. Yeah, that would have been awkward, huh, Aaron? I'm about to not introduce my wife, but not also get in trouble with my wife. So there we go. Erin Long is going to be the moderator and a participant in this panel. I'm going to call it Obvious now, the Obvious panel. If you spend more than 20 minutes with Erin Long, you don't feel like you got anything done today. Like, Erin Long is a master at handling her schedule and ability to be fully present with someone in their greatest time of need or growth as a leader while still getting probably everything done on her to-do list. There isn't anyone that I have met like Erin Long, and there isn't anyone else like Erin Long for a reason, because she's an amazing gift to this community. Her bio is too cool to even read because I get stuck in it. But Erin Long is a friend of mine and someone I want to be like when I grow up. Ladies and gentlemen, Erin Long. There's one for you. Oh, you got your headset. Cool. Does Laura have a headset too? Okay.
Please, if you have to go to the bathroom or get
Oh.
water, I know it's hot in here, please.
Yeah. And there's still booze in the back too, and water.
Yeah, when I come on stage, leave.
No, sorry. Especially after that introduction.
I actually am going to invite Dr. Laura Caillou and Becky Scrindy up to the stage with me.
Good to see you.
I had a plan, and then we got to listen to Dr. Gates, and now I have all new questions written, so I don't really have a plan any longer.
That makes me really nervous there.
I'm fine.
The good news is you can both decline to answer any question I ask. I think the first question is really having a conversation about the theme of this event, and leaders inspiring leaders. And the three of us are leaders in this community, and we have worked together I don't even know how many years. And I really see that both of your programs are innovative, they are exciting, they are inclusive, and they're really solving some of the problems that are key in this community. And so we've heard a lot about Becky's programs this evening. I would love, Laura, for you to share a little bit about what you're doing in the community and how your programs are impacting youth, adults, and life in Skagit County.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here with you, with both of you. My name is Laura Flores Caillou. I work for Skagit Valley College, but a big share of my workload is working on the curriculum, developing the programs for Leadership Skagit, Leadership San Juan Islands, Leadership Whidbey, and a Latino leadership program. And I think of leadership as the basic infrastructure of community. You know, we talk about infrastructure systems that are needed in a community, but when you have strong leaders who are collaborative and can work through differences of opinion and have built some common language and trust, some networks across the years, it really changes how work gets done in the community, how change happens. And actually, I want to give a call out to Don Wick, who was with EDASC when EDASC and the college first started Leadership Skagit. It'll be 20 years this year, so we have over 500 graduates in our community.
I'm one.
Yes,
You're one.
I was just going to say, I recognize a number of Leadership Skagit faces. So just so everybody has an idea of some of those 500 folks, if you were in Leadership Skagit, would you mind standing up for a moment? Yahoo! All right. If you haven't gone through the program, highly recommended, but don't worry, 2008 is the best class ever. Danny knew I'd get that in there. Becky, you have so many amazing people around you, and you and I have had a number of amazing conversations. Who do you see in your life as those leaders who inspired you to be able to be the visionary that you are?
Well, I take that question two ways. In the military, there was a lot of people that were leaders that taught me what not to do. And, but I think that's just as important as finding the people that inspire you. I ask for mentors. I walked into John Janicki's office and said, I know nothing about Cedar Woolley. I know nothing about nonprofits. Will you walk me through what is expected of an executive director at the time here in Cedar Woolley? And he's been a really strong advocate for me and Helping Hands, and now he's on our board because he knows when to step in. And we've cried together and we've laughed together and he's kind of yelled at people for me. And so I think that having the guts to say, I need a mentor, Erin happens to be my life coach, and I want that. I want people to be there for me because there's no end to learning about leadership. Mm-hmm. Just because I was in the right class with Danny on Leadership Skagit. But you keep learning and learning new ways and listening. I know I talk a lot. My husband will know I talk a lot. But I like to listen to different ways that people do leadership in their own way.
Mm-hmm. I actually want to answer this question too. Someone who isn't in this room tonight who has been a huge inspiration for me is Kate Bennett. Mm-hmm. And if you have ever had the opportunity to meet Kate, she is a tremendous leader, and definitely you don't say no to Kate if she ever talks to you. And today I had the opportunity to go to the memorial service for my middle school teacher, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's in a very small school, one room, 20 students, K through 12. And this woman made her life's work of being a teacher. And she passed away 2 days ago at the age of 82. And was tutoring students last week. Her lifelong mission was to support kids, and she was the first person outside of anyone in my family who held my potential and my possibility before I even knew that it was there. And we all need people like that in our lives.
We need to be people like that in our lives.
That's what I was going to say. That's who I strive to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I really, I'll just add on that, I think that this is how communities can create that structurally, is through Leadership Skagit and other programs like that, where you're like consciously saying, intentionally saying, we need to find what are the needs in our community, and what are people coming in with, what kind of talents and gifts are they bringing, and how can we kind of direct them towards or connect them with those things that they can really shine and also contribute back to the community. So I think we need individuals and we need systems to do that, and think about more ways where that can happen.
Well, and I think that, as a leader, your goal is to make the next you. It doesn't have to believe in the same things you do, but I surround myself in my work with people that could potentially be the next executive director, CEO of Helping Hands. I always say that if I find someone better to do my job, that's what the community deserves. But right now I'm sitting in the seat until they come and say, here's the next person. But I'm very, as a leader, I try really hard to see the potential in my people and just do whatever it takes to have them have those opportunities like Leadership Skagit to grow on their own. And Miranda just went through Leadership Skagit, and her project, which I didn't think that it was even possible that you could do one for your own organization, but she talked somebody into it, but they made pantries. So in Cedar Woolley by the Senior Center, in Burlington by the library, there's pantries that have food stocked in them all the time. And about 100 people use those pantries every week. And so those are the kind of projects and leadership that, us who are in that leadership position, it's almost like you have to groom the next level. It's just the right thing to do.
Definitely struck me as I was in the audience, why am I going to be on stage? Miranda should be there, Erica should be here, Karin should be here, leading this panel and having these conversations. They are definitely the next leaders in our
But they're mine,
organization.
so.
Well, I let you have Karin.
Okay.
The next question that I really has been something that is a constant quest for myself is, what do you do to ensure that you're continuing to develop yourself as a leader? And Dr. Gates talked about that, is that if we're not constantly learning or shifting where we're at in our organization, then we're kind of growing stale. So what are the things that you do?
Oh, I really feel like my work is a constant professional development because that work is done with about 150 volunteers around the community in small committees, planning like what are the things community leaders need to know, what are the issues that they should know about in our community, and we're bringing in people with expertise in different sectors of the community, so it's always new, it's always different people, and they always have different priorities, so it's like this constant, like, lovely way of staying in touch with what's happening in the community, but then also watching different leaders and how they approach work. And so to me that's really inspiring and also a source of constant learning. And I hope kind of giving back to, like, the committees become learning communities that are creating other learning communities for people who are going to go out into the community and do more of, just sharing what they've learned. So.
Yeah, sort of like a rock hitting the water and the ripples just continuing on. So Dr. Gates talked about his 27 task force all at once. And how many do you have?
Nothing like what
Nothing like that.
I think there was a few more people in there, though. Like, nonprofits have 4 people to do.
Yeah,
that's true. How about you? What do you do, Becky?
I surround myself with really good people like you, understanding that I do need someone that I can talk to in a way. If you're a leader, it's lonely at the top, right? You're not allowed to talk about the negative things that are in your mind. So being able to have someone that I can bounce off ideas and just work through not only personal stuff, because going through some seriously heavy personal stuff on top of growth. It's so funny that the universe gives you almost too much, but then it's what I've learned this past year is to step back and let these amazing next generation of leaders just make decisions. If they fail, it's okay, as long as they don't burn the building down. As long as my one thing is do not let a participant go hungry, and that's the only rule we have. And so allowing them to really step up and support me, having that conversation and saying, I need support. I'm going through something hard, and they really do. And I use Andrew, he's in the audience somewhere. I use him as a leadership guide as well, not to tell me what to do, but to really bounce off those long-term strategic, what's in the next 10 years coming, and make sure that I tend to scare people when I tell them what really is up in here, because they start going into the how. How is all this going to get done? How is Skagit County going to be so strong and so resilient that any other pandemic or problem comes up, we're here, and Skagit County's over here looking so shiny because we've got it dialed in. that scares people. So having someone that I can do the future vision casting with really supports me in making sure that I can kind of dial it into so people don't have to worry about the how and fear the how, what's coming next. So that's what I do for my own personal growth.
Yeah. One of the things that I think so many folks talked about here is the people that you're helping are making that transition from survival mode to really finding ways to thrive in their life. And when you're in survival mode, it's really hard to vision. It's really hard to imagine a future other than getting out of where you're at. And so part of what you do and your team does is allowing people to create their own visions.
My favorite one was this lady brought someone because the person didn't have a car, and she's standing there, and I'm like, do you need to go through services? She's like, no, we're saving for a house, so we have money. And I'm like, can we be part of you buying your first house? Like, I really wanted to help her be able to. We did a box one time, and it cost $54. If you were to go to a grocery store like Fred Meyer, it was $54, and that was 4 years ago, so imagine what it's worth now. But that $54 she could have put into her down payment for a house. And I'm like, please let us be a part of that. And I was so excited that we can be a part of lives and thriving, and wealth comes from owning property, and so I was just so excited that she allowed us to help her so we can be part of that dream.
Mm-hmm. I know every event, this is leading to a question, I swear. Every event has at least 5 things that are going to go wrong with it.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter what the event. It could be your 5-year-old's birthday party. It could be tonight. It could be anything else that you do in your life. I have held those words of wisdom that came to me at some point in my life, and it makes it so much easier to hold an event. What are the words of wisdom that you live by that makes you be able to function as a leader?
Staff, what is it?
That's lovely, yeah.
The how is not the question. What you're going to do.
The fear is the only thing that stops you from doing your goal. Like, it's the fear of what or the fear of this. And if we fear the how, nothing will happen. And I'm really tired of sitting in meetings and they just talk and talk and talk, and you're just like, can we do something? I mean, anything. Let's just do one thing. Well, how are we going to do that? I don't worry about that. I worry about what the gap is, what the need is. If our participants are standing there, they are our customer, basically. And those are the people that I feel like I'm the steward of this huge ship, and they're the people that we have to protect. And so if they're fearing so much in their life, because they have to use a food bank, and that's shameful in some eyes. And the things that people say about people that use food banks is, disgusting sometimes. And so not fearing the how. And so when my team gets all kind of hot and spun up, I'm like, hey, don't worry about the how. These people do the how.
I actually got caught up in this because I asked a question yesterday. How high is the chair I'm going to be sitting in? I just want to make sure I know what to wear. And the answer was, I don't know, because I was told not to fear the how.
I love it.
How about you? What are some words of wisdom that you rely on in times of trouble?
Yeah, and it's all about fear. How I think about this too, and so I go back to a writer and an educator. His name is Parker Palmer, and he talked about when you have that sense that you're afraid and you just want to draw in and not take a risk and hide whatever your reaction is. That think about having your heart. It feels heartbreaking, but have your heart breaking open. So like, how can you create in that space a greater capacity to love more? Because that's what you're talking about too, right? There's all these people with needs. We need to serve them. And so you need to let that fear, whatever's holding you, let go of that. So I think of that image of him. Your heart breaking open so you have more capacity to love your way through whatever's coming next.
And really sharing that. I mean, when you talk about a woman who you know, the stories we have about not having feminine products or not the bed from Costco that they talk about. It was a new woman and her 2-year-old, or new client, and it was a 2-year-old, and they were sleeping on a chicken coop floor that had turned into a little house, right? But it was still a dirt floor. And me and Miranda were like, we just have to take a break. This is too much for us to handle. And as we're walking back, the driver from Costco was like, Costco gave us a bed today. I'm like, what? Yeah, it fills the whole truck, so I have to go back. I'm really upset. And I'm like, okay, this lady's sleeping on the ground. We need that bed. And it was delivered to her house that day. So the universe had put it in the truck, and she had asked for it that day. So
that's amazing.
The capacity, I don't know how. I don't know how any of it works. People ask me all the time, how does this all work? I don't know. We just take one bite of that elephant every single day, and eventually we'll get there. And the get there is solving poverty.
Well, I don't actually know how much time we have, but I have
4
minutes. Perfect. Then I'm going to wrap up with this last question. We talked a lot about your vision. Jason talked a lot about your vision plan for the next few years. What's the most exciting thing that's on? Actually, I'm going to not ask you first. We'll end with you. What's the most exciting thing on your desk next week?
Yeah, I think it's imagining, when we started the leadership programs, it was really about these kind of finite start and end leadership programs, a training that you walk away from with more skills. But I want to think about these leadership programs as, you know, the beginning of a project for broader community change. And how do you organize in a way that you're getting the most out of that experience and all those volunteers that are involved. So trying to imagine that in a different way, that's my next exciting thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I know Alex wants me to say that it's the grant stuff, but that's boring. I think for me, my passion is in emergency preparedness, being in the military for 11 years and being able to manage the National Guard, because we actually managed them. I was their boss. I was the one that told them what to do. Having the people in the community tell us, you are the right people, you know what you're doing, how can we support not only Skagit, but Whatcom and Island and maybe Snohomish, and really build out what, it's scary to think how little food there is ready for everybody if there was an emergency. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my passion project, and I'm really excited to see what the next, it's not on my list next week, but it's definitely next month that we get to start exploring that.
Oh my gosh.
Very nice.
Well, thank you both for being here tonight
Thank
and
you.
for being part of this panel. Thank you.
Can't leave the stage empty.
I can't leave the stage empty. Okay, good.
Hey, great job, you guys. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Dr. Laura. He'll turn it on. I think he'll turn it off.
Oh.
There you go.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I get the honor of talking to you guys about where we are with our fund and need and where we are with our match. So I also wanted to mention, because I failed to mention earlier, that if you are not familiar or QR codes are hard for you to use, we are also accepting checks and cash, so you can give that to any staff member if that's an easier way for you guys to give. But currently, we are at, drum roll. Oh, thanks. Our match is currently at $15,975. Yes. Our fund and need is currently at $5,085. And that brings tonight's total to a whopping $131,940. But remember, Becky told you our goal was 2, so we still have some work to do. So if you have any questions or we can help assist you in giving, please let us know.
And the match will be open past tonight.
It'll be open until November.
Until November. So help us keep raising money as we keep helping people. Thank you. Oh, you're next. Oh, yeah, Erica's next. Erica's next. Come on, Erica. This is our amazing volunteer manager. She has changed the face, in my opinion, of Helping Hands in a short period of time in a really critical fundraiser or a transition. This isn't on the schedule, but I got a microphone, so. When the National Guard left, and the volunteers left the building and the National Guard came into the building, it was a precarious place for us when it came to how we had volunteers. Like, how does that work? Are you gonna bring them back while you're in the middle of COVID and all of those challenges? And Becky and the team and the board had the wisdom to say, we need somebody who's actually making that their full-time job. And she does way more than that. And now she's gonna tell you what she's excited about volunteers.
Hello again. So my name is Erica Patosa. I've been with Helping Hands since October. I came from being a 911 dispatcher for Island County and wanted to still help my community in a way that I felt proud of. And this opportunity came up and I jumped on it and was picked. Thank you, Becky. And I love it. So let's talk about volunteering. I want to thank all my volunteers who came tonight. Some of them aren't here anymore, but thank you, thank you. We had the laborers union out parking everybody, directing traffic. We had warehouse workers, volunteers come and help. We have a huge support with our volunteers, and we just love them so much. So thank you all for that. Ways to volunteer, we have a volunteer flyer. Distribution, looking for volunteers always for distribution, packing distribution boxes, mobile delivery. Those volunteers are, everyone's great, but they're really great. They donate their gas and their vehicle to take food boxes to participants who are homebound. They also deliver chow bags to the over 2,000 students a week who get those. So they're fantastic. Grocery Rescue, they go and get our donations. Solution Center to work with Miranda on solutions. Always looking for extra people for that team. Special events, thank you for my special event team. I see you back there. My heart is for you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for always being ready to answer my phone call or text and just rise to the occasion. Ways that you can volunteer outside of yourself. We love to have students. I love students coming in. So we have had high school students come in to get their varsity letter in volunteering. Love them. Service club opportunities. So we've had Rotary come in, Mount Vernon Rotary. They've come in a few times and helped with projects on the weekend. Field trips, love it. Love a good field trip. Bring your kids, tell your kids' teachers, tell everybody to come have a field trip because it is our jam. And then if you need some team building with your company and your team, building exercises, come on in. We'll build more chow bags. So, yeah, that's what I got. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can just put it on there. One of the things that has changed that we've tried to increase this year is our partnerships and look at them from a different point of view. One of our partners who will be honored here later, we loaned one of our staff's time out for about 4 to 5 hours a month from our team to their team because they're working on a project that we have some information about how to do and some understanding about it. And so instead of us doing more things, we're learning how to partner at another level with partners. And the foresight for both those executive directors or CEOs to have that it's okay to share an employee, it's okay to try to figure out ways to volunteer within each other is really special. Right now, I get to give an award. It's pretty awesome. Becky talked earlier about the really important need for handy-capable folks to have a chance in life to find their dignity in getting to work and that passionate opportunity. And Danny, you're right. This would be a good time to get everybody who's supposed to come up here for the award because I'll just, we don't want me rambling on too long. So it is with great pleasure and a great honor, and you're welcome to anyone from Chinook, please come and join us up here. Chinook Enterprises Leading the Way Award. For leading the way to employment for all 2022, the first time we've given an award away at our own banquet, but we're so thankful for Chinook. And if you don't know much about them, go check out their website or go visit their location. It's amazing. I went to an open house many years ago. So Danny is a member of the board, and Mr. Hagan is going to receive this on behalf of the rest of the team. There you go. Thank you, Danny. shorter than you think.
I was told I need to teach Jason how to be quick, so I just want to say we're a nonprofit designed as a business, but with a social mission, supporting full participation in community life for people with disabilities or other barriers. Full participation must start with successful employment. I wanted to add quickly that 10 years ago, I worked for Chinook Enterprises in the wire harness manufacturing division. And the people that I worked with, the people that were a part of the mission and the administration of that company are a big reason for who I am now, and to receive this award on behalf of Chinook is quite the honor. So thank you, Helping Hands, and thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I know it's weird to be one nonprofit giving another nonprofit kudos for their work, but when we sat down to decide this, it was who inspires us? Chinook inspires us. We have some of their folks that come to the food bank and work, and it is the most lovely experience I've ever had. So thank you, Chinook, for what you do. You are super innovative. This next one,
it's
a leader. It's an
Are you going to give it?
Award, and it's for community action, and they lead the way in nonprofits here in Skagit County. We work with them, we solutions together, we veterans together, and we work together. And our goal is to be really good partners with them and then be really good partners with us so that we can share the resource of people. The staff is so finite that we need each other to support each other. So I'm saying this is for community action, but who it really is for is the leader of community action, Bill Hinkle, because you inspire me to be the best executive director that I can be for all the work that they've done. In 7 years, I've witnessed the distribution centers who the food banks are the distribution centers' clients. I've seen them grow a seniors program that delivers boxes of food to seniors every month. I've seen Cole, who goes out to every farmer and gets as much food as they possibly can for the food banks. I've seen them work in their other programs. They've helped thousands of families with energy assistance, and now the exciting things that they're doing with housing. So I know we told you it was for community action, but it's actually for you.
It's actually for you.
So.
Am I supposed to use this?
You can, if you want to.
Well, I'll say thank you. It's an honor to be here. I love the don't fear the how. We've decided that we want... well, the number one need in the community is lack of housing that people can afford. And so we said, well, let's start building it. But we have no idea what the heck we're doing. So Becky said, how about borrowing Jason for 4 to 5, 6 hours a month? And the rest of us don't know what we're doing, but Jason actually has a background in real estate and has political savvy and has already kept us out of a lot of deep doo-doo. And so it's really remarkable what you all are doing in terms of partnering so deeply and actually loaning human beings with incredible skills. So thank you so much. Honored to be here.
Congratulations, Bill. I'm proud of you.
So this is the last thing of the evening, I promise. I know it's a little warm in here. I'd like to bring the board up. And any former board members up. No, right here. Right here.
You?
Oh, you can come.
You get to come
Well,
up.
we don't have enough, like...
She gets to come up.
Okay, you guys can come up.
Okay.
Because
Vance.
Where's
if,
Vance?
If somebody can find Vance, that would be cool.
tension in the compound, is
It's okay.
Vance here?
We're going to keep moving, but I should get out of the background of this picture.
So...
There he is.
I don't know if anybody's been on a board. There's a few people in the audience that have probably been on a board. It's one of the hardest things. Part of the organization is reining me in and really supporting the mission vision of where we're going. And I have been blessed with an amazing board that kind of allows me to think outside of the box, be innovative, and I wanted to really say thank you to them. I need the mic. Can you grab the mic? By the way, I do have a few more people, but they're sick in Mexico and other things.
So as Becky said, a board is very important to the operations of a successful nonprofit. Excuse me. And I think Becky will agree that there have been many great contributors to her board. And tonight, I get to introduce one of the greatest. It is my privilege to introduce Ginny Good. Ginny has been a member of the board of directors for Helping Hands for 20 years. Ginny comes from a pioneering family in Skagit County. They actually, her ancestors, were in the community starting in 1870, even before Washington was a state. And her whole family has always had a commitment to service. As Bill Reynolds, Ginny's friend, has said, that the Good family has produced musicians, business people, farmers, but most of all, contributors to our community. Starting with her ancestors, and especially her father, they were very, very involved with the Skagit County Pioneer Association. In fact, the Good family was the 2021 Pioneer Family of the Year. Yes, Ginny's two sisters are there also. They're known as the Good Girls. And Ginny's commitment to the, and her pride in being a pioneer family has kept her involved. In fact, her and one of her sisters were past presidents of the Skagit County, Pioneer Association, sorry. Ginny hasn't fallen far from the tree in her dedication to service, and especially to her dedication to feeding her community. After Ginny graduated from high school, she served her country by joining the U.S. Army. When she returned from the Army, she got married, had a son, and began more of her commitment to community service. Like her father, Pat, Ginny is a very proud member of the Pioneer Association, and her sister Kim are both past presidents of it, as well as following in her father's footsteps in preparing the salmon for their annual barbecue, which feeds 300 people. Ginny also has been feeding the community in Cedro-Woolley as a member of the Senior Center for 23 years. She is the current president of the Skagit County, Cedro-Woolley Farmers Market, and has served there for 23 years. She's a longtime member of the LeConner Billiken Club. The Billiken Club supports community activities in LeConner, such as the LeConner Food Bank, as well as the LeConner School District and Library, etc. Is this going to fall over? One of the things that I found as a cute little story about Ginny, a fundraiser that they do at their monthly meetings is to pass the Happy Basket. And Ginny's a very happy person and a very generous contributor to the Happy Basket, and it's very much appreciated by her other members of the community. Ginny also has worked at Safeway for 30 years, continuing her commitment to food and the community. And no surprise there, she's on the board of the local union. Anything Ginny gets involved in, she goes in full bore. I'm going to now turn the microphone over to Becky, who is going to talk about her time on the board at Helping Hands.
So I've only been there 7 years, so going back 20 years, I'm like, how many moves have we had? 5? Have you been through 5 moves? You probably don't even.
1, 2, I guess this is 4.
Okay, 4. I was one off. She was just to move a food bank. Just imagine what that takes. I've done it. Broke my staff doing it because it was so hard. The innovation that the board had building the Solution Center, both of you were actually part of that. I just want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you we've gone through a lot together. And I know you're not retiring until October, but I thought with an audience, hopefully you didn't find out that this was planned, but.
I want to know where the story came from.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Maybe you have some chatty sisters, I don't know. But we made the Community Champion Award for Virginia Good for 20 years of dedicated service to Helping Hands and your community. So thank you.
Very good stories, obviously. And yes, I love community, and my whole entire family, my sisters that are sitting out there, they're also very involved in the community. And we lean on each other and we support each other with our passions for the community. And without the leadership we had from our parents as we were growing up on what community meant to everyone, being raised in La Conner, so they're both still over that way. I'm in Cedar Woolley, so I just moved I didn't move all of my stuff this way, but this is a great honor, and yes, my whole mission has been to feed Skagit County. And so obviously working at Safeway fits right in there, and it just all fell into hand, and that's kind of what I do. The one thing they left out is I also, once a month, I do fix dinner for the Open Door Community Kitchen in Cedar Woolley. Which
Of course you do.
And that's really one of the things that when I do retire, I will never give up, is cooking food for these people, because it is the most awesome experience whenever you are able to take even a meal to your neighbor next door who's feeling ill. The feeling it gives you is one you just never forget, and it makes you want to do it again. So I hope everybody who loves community helps share with their own communities. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Where'd you get the stories? You got them?
Okay, and we're going to wrap it up. Where did Jason go? Yeah.
Come on down.
Where did he go? I can't close this thing without you.
There's something happening here that you don't know about.
Oh. Uh-oh. Do I run?
No, not in those heels.
I'm going to kick you out.
Oh, good.
Do you want to hold one too? Oh.
So, has all good.
This one's working.
There we go. All good parties end with some flowers to someone. So, I would like to, Karen, could you please?
Karen Hicks.
Karen has been with us planning every step of the way. She works for the museum, as we all know. She's fantastic. You're lovely. The human that you are inspires me to be a better human. and the passion that you have inspires me to be more passionate. She is retiring. This is our first and last event with Karen as the coordinator here.
No.
But she will be here next year with us volunteering.
Wait. No, that's not, that actually isn't a joke. She already recruited her. Like, that already happened.
So we love you, we thank you, we honor you.
Yeah.
Continue.
Definitely.
Continue doing what you're doing. Thank you.
You tell Greg that was Erica's idea.
Okay, so I get these honors, and I'm going to try to do this without crying.
I'll
Becky,
tag in.
could you come to the stage, please? I started at Helping Hands in March, beginning of March. And I am so impressed at the type of leader this woman is. She inspires me every day. She shocks me every day with her kind heart and how humble she is. And I can't imagine working for a better person. You teach me every day, you give us grace, and you provide us all a safe and beautiful way to give back to our community and provide us the ability to be the people that we are, with or without faults. So thank you for being that leader. Thank you for taking charge. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for your heart. And it is a privilege I can soundly say for every one of these staff members and volunteers that get to participate and participants at Helping Hands that we are better because you lead us.
That's right.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
What are you doing? She's got her own. She's got her own.
It's not her favorite,
No.
but it's deserved.
No.
So, with that, see, I almost made it through the whole night without crying.
You're doing good. You're doing really good.
I was like doing really great. So now I want to get some final totals for you guys. Just give me a minute. For our match, we are at $16,075. $5,085 for our fund to need, which brings us to a total of $132,040 to support our community.
Thanks, Mark. You want to say anything?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to thank my staff. It's an honor and privilege every day to go to work. My husband knows how much I love them. I rarely come home in a bad way, because I know everything we do feeds that little child that's mom just needs that little bit of help. I see it every day. The cutest picture was this kid grabbed a handful of blueberries and shoved them in his mouth, and I went, that's awesome. That's awesome. The organic, beautiful blueberries. I'm lucky to have a family and a husband who supports me, because sometimes he fears the how, and so we bounce that off each other. But I have a staff that would go climb that mountain with me, would go to war with me, would stand in front of a bullet for me, because I care for them so much, because they deserve it. I have 17,234 flaws. They have less than I do, so every day they get the grace of just being amazing human beings that they are. And I hope someday someone gets to sit in my seat and make it even better. So thank you to my staff, thank you to the volunteers, thank you to the donors, and thank you to my friends who are here tonight. And thank you, Jason. And thank you to Dr. Gates.
Yes. So I'll close with this. Thank you to my co-host, my boss, and all the other awesome things that you do for me. To my family who came out and filled a whole row. Of course, I paid for most of their tickets, but I just want to say on behalf of Helping Hands, the staff, the volunteers, Eric Larson, who couldn't be here tonight, I'm spacing on Rick's last name, Rick Bailey, who couldn't be here tonight, and Lisa
Ski. I just say
Nagowski.
Ski.
They couldn't be here tonight because of COVID, and that broke our hearts. But I want to say on behalf of everyone who works in this organization, we appreciate you. And we hope that every day you feel that appreciation for your community. We'll go help you anywhere you can. You see somebody on that corner, like Sarah talked about, please reach out to us. We love you all, and good night.